Hello and welcome back to the live series podcast brought to you by Amicus. This is the podcast that gives you insight into the life and role of tech leaders from all over the world. And today I'm joined by Tayaru Bayyana. Tayaru is actually, we just discussed it before the podcast, so much experience in varied roles, all to do with tech leadership, and currently operating as a technology advisor and mentor, but also dabbling in some FCTO things and previously director of engineering as well. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Heather. Thanks for having me on the show, and it's pleasure meeting you and everyone on the show.
Not a problem at all. I've been really excited about this one. I know we chatted a little bit previously on a quick intro call before the episode, as I do with all guests, but yours was particularly interesting to me because we're going to be covering a subject today that I personally really enjoy talking about. It's all about kind of diversity and especially with a lean on women in tech, which we've covered really briefly before on the show. And it's always gone down really well. And it's just something that I don't think you can talk enough about really. So I'll stop blathering and we'll get into a little bit more about your background, maybe for anyone that hasn't heard of you or your work. Do you kind of want to give some context around your experience up to now?
Yeah. I'm a strategic visionary and empathetic leader. I have been in the industry, software industry, over 20 years. I catered across 10 to 12 domains over the years. I started my career as an engineer, fresh graduate out of college. I was a researcher in aerospace. To start with, I worked in computational electromagnetics. So I worked there for 3, 4 years, very young out of the college. I enjoyed the experience thoroughly. Then I moved to software. I was in CAD camp for some time. So I started as a hands-on developer and senior developer. And then during one of my roles, I was given the opportunity to mentor and coach another senior developer while executing a project. That's more like a transition for me, where I could realize that I can get the best out of people who are working with me. So then I moved to people management. So I worked through ranks like senior engineering manager, director of engineering. I took a pause to my career, intentional pause to my career, just to do some introspection on what is my purpose, where am I, where would I like to go. While doing so, I am giving my time back and experience back to the society. So I'm an advisor to a nonprofit. I am a mentor and coach. I also am bringing the technology leaders together in the South Denver area by conducting monthly once CTO lunches. I am an organizer for South Denver CTO lunches. So I am at a point in my career where I thoroughly enjoy growing and mentoring other leaders. So that's like the transformation I'm going through. So that's where I am in my career.
Yeah, I feel kind of lucky to have caught you in that kind of sweet spot between all these different experiences, and especially when you're in that kind of coaching and mentoring and advisory kind of mindset. It's kind of the perfect time to pick your brain about certain things. So I'm really pleased that we got you on. It is a pretty fascinating kind of pathway, let's say, that you've had so far. And we will get kind of onto to how it's, I always find it interesting when I have female guests on who've lived through the tech landscape and who've had lots of different experiences there. Not all negative, but it feels like a lot of the time when you talk about women in tech, there is often kind of negative connotations around it just because there's so little women in tech, right? And it's almost as if the industry isn't really ready still. Would you say that's fair for a lot of women to get started in tech? So I'm just going to ask you a super broad question. And what are the kind of obstacles that a lot of women can face when when they're trying to get into the tech industry?
Yeah, the obstacles women face are mostly the biases all of us have. Like women are not big problem solvers. they may not be strategic thinkers. So all these biases which were built into our whole system, it's nothing to do with I would say it has nothing to do with where we come from. It's more like a societal norm where women are looked down upon. Can they solve a problem? I solved many problems which where men were given the same opportunity. I'm not trying to say or compare anyone, but the overall bias towards women is they cannot learn math, they cannot solve problems, they are not strong enough, they are emotionally vulnerable. But you can take all those pieces and convert them into their core strengths. Um, Personally, I was a very good problem solver from my childhood. Math was my strongest area throughout my career, throughout my life. Was it natural? It was natural for me. And if someone is aspirational and they want to move to the tech industry, I would say figure out what makes you happy internally, what you can learn, what you can be best at. So the positives women have are like pulling everyone together, having that empathy during leadership, understanding others and then speaking, listening first. So these are all the things where a team can thrive and be their best version. So we know women have been great leaders and we have been relying on it. If we want more women to be there, we have to give them room. Even today, the percent of women in boardrooms is less than 5%. So there is so much scope and so much room to grow. And all of us have to be well aware that women can be there and they can contribute to the society. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you say we need the women need to be given room because it's so true, and because it's just not the room isn't always naturally there, even though the skill sets are often. And you mentioned there how your strong suit was maths in school. Mine was the exact opposite in school. I was purely art and creativity, and maths was absolutely rubbish for me. But that doesn't make me unable to be a good leader as a woman. Like you said, play into each other's strengths. Like men have strengths, women have strengths. Every individual has strengths, and it's those strengths that make them a good leader. It's not anything to do with their gender or anything to do with how they identify. And I think you're right. You just give it room, and it's almost bizarre to be having this kind of conversation, really, because it's 20. You could go down the whole road of it's 2024. Why are we still having these conversations? But we do need to be having these conversations, right? They're important to have, and especially what you've just said could apply across any industry, really, when it comes to who deserves what space and who has the right skill sets to be a good leader, etc. But in tech specifically, I think it is quite notable that there's not enough women really functioning, especially at a higher level. So who's kind of I mean, you mentioned some things there and mentioned getting some room for people to function and grow the ladder. But whose responsibility is it? And we're not saying that the tech industry is just full of men who are ignorant and don't want to give women the time of day. Of course it isn't. But it is someone's responsibility, right? Whether it's a collective or whether it's not an individual, obviously just running the entire industry. But whose responsibility is it generally for women to be able to get that space? Is it on them? Is it on people in the industry already? Or is it a collaboration of things?
I would say it's a collaboration of things. If you go into a room, there is a table full of people and there is only one chair. No one pulls the chair for you. Just go ahead and pull the chair for you and sit there and contribute to the discussion which is happening, like the problem solving area, or what values do you bring? How can you throw your perspective into the room and let people think differently? Um, it is a collaborative effort. So, like for example, if I have to sell something in a scenario, I know As an engineer, that's not my super duper strength. But if there is a problem, the perspective I provide would have the immense value to solving the problem using the broader strategy, which is good for the whole company and the vision or the long-term vision of the company. So figure out what is your core strength and try to sell that core strength to the best of your abilities. So as a company, we need every player. If you want to be successful as a company, we need every piece of the puzzle together. So be that piece of the puzzle, play the part of being part of the team, provide the best version. That's on the self. And the second thing is you have to be. So when you are at a point in your career, you need to have a leader who is a mentor, sponsor, and a leader who can take you with him or her. So when you are not there in the room, your presence should be felt, and you have to be the one who will be promoted when you are not there in the room. That's the value you should provide as a person and as a leader. So the best inspiration I have is Indra Nui. She came from India. So I am from India. So the societal norms we have does not allow females to be breaking the barrier, moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. She has been there. She has done that. I look up to her. The work ethic she has and the strategic thinking mind she has and how she has transformed PepsiCo. That's an inspiration. So look up to the leaders. Uh, Pick some as your mentors and coaches, learn from their experiences, and be the voice. Like, don't be shy of promoting yourself. So, because of the self-conscious bias we don't promote ourselves. I would say we have to promote ourselves. It's not only the value you provide, you have to promote yourself. You have to talk about your achievements, what you have done, and how impactful you are as a leader. I would say it's a combination of things. The influence sphere you have that has to be broad enough, and the people who can speak for you, the leaders who can support you has to be broad enough. And overall, identify your core values and work rigorously towards them. There is no shortcut to working hard and moving forward in your life. So I believe in that. Along with that, building that sphere of influence is very much critical these days.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with absolutely everything you've just said, and it's pretty inspirational too. I love the point that you mentioned about promoting yourself. I think that's something that is so underrated, and again, especially when it comes to being a woman in any career, but particularly in tech, where there's sparse kind of people like you said that to look up to, role models in tech. You need somebody to be able to aspire to, and if it's not in front of you, how can you kind of become it, right? So in terms of promoting yourself as well, I think that's a really great point, because when it comes to even something like applying for a job or something, I can't remember who it was, but I had a guest on previously who mentioned when women are applying for jobs, that I think it was Leah Cohen actually, when women are applying for jobs, they're like 50% less likely to apply for a job if they don't match a couple of the skills on it, whereas men are actually twice as likely if they don't match anything to apply for it, because they vouch for themselves. They think, yeah, sound, I'll blag it, or whatever they're thinking. Their mindset is far more self-positive than a woman's is naturally. And that's not to say we're all beating ourselves up over everything all the time, but that natural confidence just isn't there for let's say most women, right? Especially when it comes to the world of work. So let's talk about hiring for a little bit, because I think it's kind of crucial. Obviously, we're kind of talking about women getting into tech. What can tech companies do? We could sit and talk about how to get into tech till the cows come home, but if there isn't anything that the industry is particularly doing to encourage women coming into tech, then what's the point in applying for those jobs, right? So what do you think, as someone who obviously has a lot of experience hiring, what do you think the ideal hiring process would look like, do you think, for let's say a company wants to get more women onto their team, or they're trying to diversify their team, and it's a tech company, for example, what would the hiring process look like, or how could they tweak it to kind of get more, let's say, women applying essentially?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say the hiring process should be unbiased. Um, Eliminate as many biases as you could during the resume reviews, during the like, why do you have to know the gender beforehand? Why don't you talk to the person openly, maybe over the phone, figure out what they bring to the table and how that skill set match with the requirements you have. So that's like more like the resume filtering through to the interview. Once you have the interview and when you're moving to the next stage, I would say encourage not having videos. Like, I would not say not having video, but try to eliminate as much bias as possible in the hiring process. So there are many diverse people who are well qualified for the role. So it could be women, it could be minorities, it could be immigrants. We need to give everyone equal opportunity to that. Like, if you're interviewing 10 people, interview them as if you are trying to fit them into the role, not looking at, okay, I want to promote women, I want to promote diversity. The diversity, if you make the right hiring decision, you will pull the right people in and your teams would be diverse. So most of my teams are internet, like I would say, very, very diverse. Like, I had people from different countries. I had people from different origins. The teams I led were very high performing because we don't agree on anything. we just we just have those discussions again and again and again till we get to the best conclusion, which is the best part about having a diverse team. Like, you have very intense discussions to come to a conclusion on an architecture, on a design decision, on a very small things like on a hiring decision. So you're getting the best out of the team because there are a number of perspectives. As a human being, I have my own biases. I may be tunnel visioned, I may not be opening up. But when we have these discussions, that's when my brain opens up. Oh, okay, this is where I missed the perspective. Oh, this is another perspective I have to respect. Yes, the discussions would be intent, but the outcome of diverse perspectives is invaluable for the business outputs. Like, I would say, for executing the long-term vision of the business, they are the best. So the main reason I had high-performing teams is because I had diverse teams. Yeah, they were all over the country, all over the world, and everyone comes with their own perspective, and I create that safe space for people to be themselves and speak their mind out, irrespective of their designation, their role, what they're doing. I want them to be their best version as a leader. So, coming back to your question of, I want to promote women, I want to promote diverse people, I want to promote people from India, I want to promote people from South Asia. Yes, these are all the pieces, but as a leader, if you are hiring for a role, I would say the main thing is like, what is the distance between your ears and what is the material there. That's where your focus should go, and every other bias should stand out of the way. Do we have unbiased hiring processes? No, it's very much biased. Um, Yeah, there is bias in the hiring process. There are preconceptions in the hiring process. But there are many leaders like me who are working towards making that more unbiased. I hope things will get better and better as we pass through.
Yeah, that's definitely something I think most people would hope. But do you know, it's really interesting that you brought up kind of anonymous hiring and anonymous CV screening. I think it was Andre Anita, a previous guest, who said that diversity within a team, it was a really interesting philosophy. He said diversity within a team doesn't mean looking at somebody and thinking, oh yeah, they tick a box, let's get them on the team, or listening to somebody and thinking, oh, they sound like they're from somewhere else, so let's get them on the team for a bit of diversity. And it's actually the mindset needs to be diverse. And like exactly like you said, like you can pick someone's skills and they will diversify the skill set of the team, and that is true diversity. And then the type of person that they are doesn't come down to ticking boxes. It's literally about the structuring of the team, the qualities that you're going to gain on the team, and the different perspectives, like you said. And it's just going to benefit the team. It's progressive, and it has nothing to do with, like you said again, looking at someone's picture or getting on a video call with somebody, or it's nothing to do with appearances or gender or anything like that. If you hire the right skills, then the diversity will come. And I think that's a really interesting point. Um, that was really interesting. That when it comes to the industry on a whole, I know I'm being very general, by the way. We're talking about the tech industry, but it's great to have someone like yourself who's had all this kind of varied experience. So I hope you don't mind me being so general. But when it comes to raising the confidence, specifically of women in tech, I know we kind of talked about whose responsibility it is, and there's a lot of self-empowerment that can be done for women trying to get into tech as well. Do you think that comes down to is it on women to try and raise their own confidence in tech? Do you think that there's something that leaders can be doing within companies? Say they've got a woman on the tech team, she's the only woman, say, in the whole squad or in the whole division. But maybe she is feeling confident, but you don't really know how to check. You don't want to kind of overstep the mark, or you feel like you're walking on eggshells because she's a woman, which is quite a dangerous sea to be floating on anyway. But generally, is there something that leaders could be doing to either check in or raise the confidence of women in their tech team?
Yeah, so this again, I would link this back to mentoring and coaching. So I have been mentoring and coaching many women in the industry. Mostly women are very quick internalizers. They take the opinions of people and internalize them very easily. I would call that imposter syndrome or tall poppy syndrome. I have been talking to women. They are super smart. They are the leaders. They are the future of the company. I can see the potential in them. But when I have these discussions, most of them are like, okay, this is happening. I don't know whether I am like, there are some reorgs happening and there are some positions I am aspirational to. They come to me and say, do you think I should aim for it? Do you think like they don't claim to be that person. They mostly like, oh, can I go there? Can I be there? Uh, so I would say, as leaders, whoever are leading women, mentor them to be their best versions. You have so much opportunity to mentor and coach. Like they are there 70%, 80%. 20% is there in the hands of the leaders who are leading women leaders. How can you mentor them? How can you coach them? How can you create that safe space for them to express their concerns? Um, yeah, I would say I have been that top performer in the companies, but I never had a leader who created that safe space for me. That's the reason I'm giving back my experience and time. Most of my career is like I make the decisions, I take the risk, I go very bold with my career. But when I look back, can my career be in a like a better trajectory or better path. Yes, maybe if I was more well aware, self-aware of myself, and I had a very strong mentor and coach, I would have been a different leader by now. So that's where I see the gap. That's why I'm mentoring and coaching other women with the intentions to give back my experience, intention to help others grow. And many of us have that experience, go out and help others. It could be women, it could be anyone whom you see needs help. Create that safe environment for them to express their concerns. Um, any discussion you have or any conversation you have, it could be a win-win situation or win-loss situation. Create the safe space to make that a win-win situation as a leader. So that's how simple it is. As women, or as I would say, I would not. Yeah, the career trajectory the women aspire for, it's not like fast paced and they want to go from here to here, not like that. They want to grow, they want to learn, they want to be their best version, because the way they were put so many aspirations together when they are brought up, that's how they want to grow. So the create that safe environment, let them be themselves and their best version, and you will get the best out of them.
Yeah, I love that, especially about creating a safe space. It's something that comes up quite a bit on this podcast, because if you're not doing that as a leader, what benefit are you really having for your team if they're not comfortable coming to you with a concern, or personal or professional? I think as well, it's so crucial. I absolutely love that you've covered that, because my next kind of point was going to be how to kind of ensure that female team members feel valued. Obviously, if they feel like they're comfortable enough to come to you with a concern, then they're feeling confident in you. They've got a lot of trust in you. Not necessarily, we don't have to go into kind of specifics on tech workload or anything like that in terms of how do they feel valued. Well, they've got loads of work to do or whatever. In terms of having to feel valued in a team, and I suppose it does apply across kind of any team member really, but I think it is a little different in tech, because feeling valued a lot of the time, I don't know, you'll have a stand up in the morning and then you'll just go and do your own project for the whole day, and then you'll maybe catch back up at the end of the day or the next day. How can you make software engineers or people who aren't necessarily leaders on your team feel valued as a leader?
Yeah, so whenever you get an opportunity, give them the credit they deserve. They have done, like, if you are mentoring a leader, they have done an improvement in a process. Call them out, appreciate them in the stand up. If you have a weekly shout out on a Slack or any communication medium, or like a company-wide meeting, take their name out, clearly articulate what the value they brought to the table as a leader. Or if you're looking at a young developer and you gave them a problem, so I would not call it like a problem which a very junior developer fresh out of college could solve. I gave them the next level challenge and they solved it for you. That means they have showed the value they could deliver by putting in the additional effort. So whenever there is an opportunity to give credit, give the credit to the team as a leader. Whenever there is an opportunity to give the feedback, it's like, even if it's like, okay, there are communication silos in the team, there is no transparency in what's happening, and the engagement is down. When there is a opportunity to give the feedback as a leader. So the most of the yeah the most of the engineering teams or the engineering leaders I have seen take a step back in giving the credit. I would say just giving the small appreciation and a small shout out boosts their day-to-day engagement and shows them what value they can contribute towards your vision and strategy. And when you are having, so another challenge most leaders would have is they there is a strategic vision and there is a tactical day to day. So when you are being the leader of leaders, you have to take the strategy of the company and convert that into a day to day tactical executable roadmap. But you have to bridge that gap. So why am I doing this day to day bug fixing or support or implementing features, and how that connects to the long term vision? What is the financial impact it has? What is the overall, I would say, implications or improvements it will bring to the product of the company? I'm just talking about the software products here. So how does it make the life of the end user much easier and much simpler? Articulate those values down at the tactical level so that the team is more engaged and more involved in the day-to-day work. For me, I have been lucky enough to get the very high visibility projects and being like mostly handling things on my own at a very young age. So that gave me a good perspective of what is the business value, what is the customer value, what am I doing, why am I doing this day in, day out. But at a layered organizational level, there will be many layers where the younger generations are shielded from this through. Like shielding is there, so you have to bridge that gap and fill the things for the team.
100%. Giving your team the bigger picture is kind of crucial for them to even not only understand what it is that they're actually doing, especially when you are in a tech team and you've got a million different points on the project, but you have no idea kind of what point A to D is. You're just working on F, and then you kind of got to go all the way through to Z eventually, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's a horrible analogy. You can tell that I don't actually work in a tech team, but it's definitely somewhere around there, right? So in terms of I can't believe how quickly this episode's flown by the way, but in terms of being able to make your team feel valued, in terms of being able to give your team some confidence, going back to kind of just specifically chatting about being a woman in tech and what it means to be a woman in tech. So I always like to round up with kind of a generalist question with each guest, but I think I'll aim this one a little bit more towards what we've been talking about, and that's what kind of advice would you have? It's sort of a two-parter. What kind of advice would you have for women looking to climb the ladder in tech, and advice would you have for say either a male or female leader who manages women in tech?
So I would say if you want to climb the ladder in tech as a woman, you should have, nothing is impossible for a willing heart. So you should have the strategy for yourself. Where are you currently in your career? Where you would like to go? Like, what is your career strategy? Where you would like to see yourself, for example, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And my strategy evolves as the time passes by. I'll have a vision of myself, and then I would say there are so many other factors which are not in your control. For example, right now the tech world is completely shaken by the AI and ML. In that scenario, I cannot say I'll just do the distributed web application development without any influence of AI and ML. So how would you pivot your strategy as a leader is very critical. So have a vision, very clear vision for yourself, and modulate or pivot that vision as things happen in the industry. And as you see yourself clearly there, you will get there. You just have to have that perseverance and persistence and belief in yourself as a leader. So this could be women, this could be men, anyone. Have that strategy, have that vision, stick to your plan and achieve one small step at a time and reach the goal is what I would say. Then coming back to your question of how, oh, sorry, can you please repeat the question for
Yeah,
me?
for sure, of course. It was so essentially if you're climbing the ladder, or if you're either male or female, and you're managing a woman in tech, or you're a woman, female manager, and you're looking to kind of hone in on your skills as a manager.
Yeah, so the way I go with coaching and mentoring people is using a grow framework. What is my goal? What is the reality? What are the obstacles? Where am I currently, and how can I build the gap between the goal and the reality? For example, if I am a team lead, I want to be a manager. So, is there a career matrix defined for a team lead to become a manager? Can I give an honest feedback? First, I would take the feedback from them. Where do they see themselves? And then provide them a clear picture of what is the reality and where are the gaps and how can they work in filling those gaps. Uh, if I say there are 7 gaps in, like, 3 gaps in soft skills. So I will roadmap that into specific smart goals, more like what can we achieve in the next 3 months, what can we achieve in the next 6 months, so that we are bridging the gap and working on the feedback using the real time examples, and then making sure the person is reaching where they would like to reach. There could be some technology gaps, which are more towards, okay, you want to be a DevOps lead, but you are doing full stack web development. To get there, you need to learn the fundamentals of Docker, fundamentals of Kubernetes, fundamentals of ECS, AWS, Google Cloud. So depending on the complete tech stack the company is using, you may have to do some certifications. So how can you put that in the timeline the person would like to achieve? And how can you give them that little space so that they achieve the goals and make sure they're critically tracked? The example I could give in my career, I mentored developers who are like mainframes developers to be a more like a full stack developer. It's towards a it was an intense mentoring for me, but by the end of it, it was more like the feedback I got as a leader is like, I never thought I could do this in my life. All I know is mainframes. It was so fulfilling for me to see, yes, you can do this, and I helped you get there as a leader. It was a very fulfilling and enriching experience for me. Um, the other way I would suggest is what are the company's strategic goals and how can those be linked to the growth uh, growth goals of an individual. So if the company strategic goal is to have a 100% CI/CD compliant application delivered or a service layer delivered, so who can do the CI/CD in your org? Um, it may be a developer who does not know CI/CD. He wants to learn and do it. Give them that chance. Have another person who is an expert to overlook them. That way, that person gets the mentoring opportunity, and the junior developer gets the opportunity to grow, and you achieve the overall strategic goals as a team.
I love that. Some really insightful advice there, especially in terms of like building out your tech stack. It didn't even occur to me. I suppose such is the way of the tech industry to constantly be developing, pardon the pun. But in terms of like, building out your tech stack and everything like that, yeah, it's absolutely vital. But I suppose having someone like yourself there to oversee that growth and to kind of help you, because sometimes it is just a case of you kind of know what you want, but then you actually need someone to sit down with you and plot out A to B to C to D. And then you figure out how to get there in the end. And it's especially true for management as well, I suppose. Well, honestly, I can't believe that it's the end of the episode already. I think it's again a subject that we could go on talking about for a long time. There's definitely a lot of I had to restrain from branching off into all kinds of different directions during that one. But yeah, if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, if it's on YouTube, you can hover over this corner and just hit subscribe down there. If you're watching on Spotify or listening on Spotify, make sure to give us a follow as well and catch up with all the rest of the episodes. If you're also a leader in tech, we have just launched our brand new community, especially for tech leaders. You can head over to our website, amicusjobs.com/leadership group, and that will take you straight to our private Slack channel. We'll drop you an invite in there. You can't add yourself. It's tech leaders only, I'm afraid. So drop yourself a little message on there, or you can drop me a message on LinkedIn, and we'll get you in there as well. There's absolutely loads of lovely stuff in there. Previous podcast guests are all members in there. So yeah, it's absolutely a really brilliant place to network and communicate with everybody. So honestly, Tayaru, thank you so much again. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much, Hiddet. Thanks for giving me this opportunity and listening to me for so long. I appreciate it.
No problem.